In 1984, the most violent act in Rolling Stones history was not committed by Keith Richards during a heroin binge or by Mick Jagger in a fit of ego. It was delivered by Charlie Watts, the jazz drummer in a three-piece suit who had spent 20 years sitting silently in the back, 5 in the morning at an Amsterdam hotel. The Rolling Stones were falling apart. Mick Jagger, drunk and riding high on his solo career, picked up the phone and called Charlie's room. "Where's my drummer?" Charlie hung up. He shaved, he showered, and he put on a full Savile Row suit. He walked down to Mick's suite, grabbed him by the lapels, and punched him in the face. "I'm not your drummer. You're my fucking singer." Mick went backward into a table covered in food and champagne. Keith Richards physically pulled Charlie off before he could do more damage. Mick said later that Charlie's punch was the wake-up call he needed. "I was being an asshole," he said. But the punch revealed something everyone had missed for 2 decades. The quiet one sitting in back was actually running the whole show. Charlie had spent 20 years being treated as a backing musician, hired help, Mick's drummer. The press focused on Mick's strut and Keith's riffs. Magazine covers cropped Charlie out. Articles sometimes did not name him. He was the normal one, the quiet one, the boring stone. Charlie let them believe it. He knew what they did not. He was better than everyone else in that band. Charlie Watts came up playing bebop in the late 1950s London jazz clubs. He played with Alexis Korner's Blues Incorporated. When Mick and Keith asked him to join the Stones in 1963, he turned them down twice. He told them he had a real gig playing jazz. They begged. He finally said yes, but he kept his day job as a graphic designer for another year, in case this rock and roll thing collapsed. Keith understood what they had. He said that Charlie Watts was the bed he lay on musically, and that without Charlie, there would be no Rolling Stones. But the world saw Mick strutting and Keith nodding off, and assumed those two were the band. Charlie did not correct them. He showed up, and he played drums. Between 1964 and 1969, the Stones became the anti-Beatles. Mick and Keith got arrested, did drugs, made headlines. Charlie showed up on time, played perfectly, and went home to his wife Shirley. The press called him normal. His jazz friends called him a sellout. He became the guy who is not like the others. Satisfaction in 1965 made them global. Charlie's beat made the song work. He called it terrible and said he wished they had never recorded it. The thing that made him millions was beneath him. Then, from 1969 to 1972, 4 albums defined rock: Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street. 50 sold-out shows a year. Every album hit #1. Critics called them the greatest rock and roll band in the world. Charlie Watts made that possible. During the Exile sessions in Keith's basement in France, Charlie worked 18-hour days while Keith fell asleep on heroin. Charlie would wake him, record 1 take, Keith would nod off. Charlie never complained, never walked. He just kept the band breathing. The shuffle on Honky Tonk Women, the groove on Gimme Shelter, the swing on Tumbling Dice. Charlie turned chaos into music. At the peak, he said, "I've never filled a stadium. I just played drums." He dismissed himself while being the most important person there. Mick could throw tantrums. Keith could disappear into drugs. Charlie stayed professional enough for 3 people. But tension was building. Not musical tension, class war. Mick came from art school. He faked a working-class accent, and he played at being dangerous. Charlie actually grew up in working-class London. He had been a graphic designer. He saw rock and roll as work, not identity, and he saw straight through Mick. Someone asked Charlie about Mick once. Charlie replied, "Mick's a lovely bunch of guys." The sarcasm cut right through Mick's multiple personalities, his need for constant attention, and the way he treated the rhythm section like employees. By 1982, Mick started making band decisions alone. He changed tour dates without asking. He vetoed songs. He told the press he was taking control. In 1984, he told Rolling Stone that the Stones were basically his band now, and that he made the decisions. Keith's heroin addiction was destroying him. He was arrested in Toronto and was facing prison. The band could not agree on anything for Dirty Work, their worst-reviewed album in 20 years. Bill Wyman was thinking about quitting. The press declared them finished, and ticket sales dropped as newer bands were taking over. Charlie started drinking. Not Keith level, but enough that Shirley noticed. It was the first time in his life. The discipline that defined him was cracking. Keith said years later that in 1986 they almost did not make it. Charlie was the only thing holding them together, and even he was breaking. Amsterdam, 5 in the morning. "Where's my drummer?" 20 years of being invisible. One moment of violence. Charlie decided alone while putting on that suit. He gave up his entire identity as the gentleman who never caused trouble. One punch, 20 years of dignity gone. It worked. Mick never called him my drummer again. Keith said the whole dynamic shifted immediately. Mick finally understood Charlie could leave whenever he wanted, and without Charlie, there was nothing. They stayed together 37 more years. They recorded 14 more albums. They became the highest-grossing touring act in history because Charlie Watts punched Mick Jagger. Charlie went back to Devon. Same house since the 60s. Same wife, Shirley. Married 1964. Bred Arabian horses. Collected jazz records. Lived like a country gentleman who happened to be in the world's biggest rock band. 2,000 concerts over 60 years. Never missed a show. Never caused a scandal. Never said anything in interviews beyond, "I just play drums." Mick got knighted, divorced 3 times, 8 kids with 5 women, became a billionaire. Keith survived. Bill Wyman quit in 1993, could not take it anymore. Charlie maintained professional respect with Mick, not friendship. He called Mick's solo work rubbish in 2012, but they understood they needed each other. Someone asked Charlie about the punch in 2019. He said, "I hit Mick once. He got the message." He would not say more. Dave Grohl said in 2015, "Charlie Watts is the secret weapon. He is the least rock and roll person in rock and roll, which makes him the most essential." He was talking about Charlie, but also describing himself. Taylor Hawkins was Foo Fighters' moral center until he died in 2022, the same role Charlie played for the Stones. Both drummers, both the steady ones, both died and left holes nobody could fill. The Stones tour now with Steve Jordan on drums. Fans say it is different. They finally get what Charlie did. He made chaos sound like a band. Keith put it plainest. Everybody thinks Mick and Keith are the Rolling Stones. If Charlie Watts said he was not playing, the Rolling Stones would have folded. We remember Mick and Keith. We think they are the band. But Keith knew better. Charlie spent 60 years saying he was just the drummer. Not important. It was Mick and Keith's band. Then he died in August 2021, and the Stones faced what they had never admitted out loud. Without Charlie Watts, they were never really the Rolling Stones. He was right. the whole time, just a job, but only he could do it. The gentleman in the suit who sat in back never complained, made everyone around him better, until that morning in Amsterdam when he stopped being a gentleman. He put on his best suit, walked into Mick Jagger's room, and showed him who actually ran things. Keith Richards had to pull Charlie off Mick, not the other way around. The quiet one turned out to be the dangerous one. 60 years of showing up and everyone finally understood. Charlie Watts did not need to prove he was the most important stone. The rest of them just needed time to figure it out.